Okie dokie, it is live. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing very, very well. This is a bit of a different stream for a variety of reasons. First of all, we have 3 people on it and not 2, which is unusual. And then second of all, it's a very awkward timing for the 3 of us. So it's 11 p.m. for me, 7 a.m. for Dana, 10 p.m. for Akshay. So it's kind of, but we're just in different countries. So it's just kind of probably the least awkward of times for everybody. So that's interesting. And then also, I think it's interesting that this time I think this is the first time ever, that I have a family member in a video, I think. I'm pretty sure about that, apart from my grandpa, who has been in a couple, but I think that's the first one, apart from my grandpa. So it'll be a really interesting little stream. And this is a bit of a continuation from a video we did about a month ago, Dana and I, where we talked about Canadian and American English. And it was funny because when we were talking, I think I even said it, where I was like, man, it'd be nice if we had an American here. And so we brought an American here, which is my cousin, and we'll talk about that in a second. And actually, technically speaking, in English terms, not my cousin, which we can talk about. Yeah, let's just jump right in. So basically, let's start with my cousin. Let's start with Akshay. So Akshay, how are you?
I'm great. So I am in California right now.
Nice.
I live in Palo Alto, but I'm currently at my parents' place in Fremont, which is where I grew up. Background, I grew up here. Most of my family's in Calgary with Azren, so that's where I'd be visiting a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I went and did my university at UC San Diego, also in California. And now I'm back here again. I did my major in computer science, and I'm working at Visa as a software developer, kind of the whole big data space. And in all my free time, I pretty much dance or DJ or into music.
Nice. No, I have to mention something. I don't know if you remember this. I have one memory from when we were kids. We went to I think it was a summer camp,
mm-hmm.
and we were talking about how I say you're my cousin, but when we were at the summer camp, we were trying to explain how you're my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
But then we realized after that, in English terms, you're actually not my uncle, because that's not how it's viewed. I don't know if you remember that or not. Do you remember that summer camp? I'm not sure if you.
I remember the summer camp. I don't remember this conversation.
This conversation, I still remember it.
But I think by the technical definition, I'm your uncle, not like second cousin. Second cousin would be like.
Isn't second cousin like your mom's cousin?
Yeah, that's not this, right?
But you are my mom's cousin, aren't you?
No, I'm you. Yeah, I'm your mom's cousin.
So then you're my second cousin.
Yeah, I have no clue. In my mind, it makes complete sense how I'm your uncle. That I completely understand.
I understand that too, but I know just historically when you've talked to people, it always throws them off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wait, how is it that you're essentially? When's your birthday? Like what month's your birthday?
August 18th, 92.
Yeah, so you're just not. You're a couple months older than me. So it's like
you're second cousins.
Second cousins?
How do you define second cousin?
So if Azren's mother is your first cousin, then you are a second cousin of Azren.
Even though it's one tree level down in the hierarchy.
Doesn't matter.
That's the second.
Because you guys are the similar age. I'm the same way with my second cousins. Like my mom's cousins' kids are my second cousins, and they're like around the same age as me.
Okay, so then I guess, yeah, then we're second cousins by that definition.
Interesting. Okay, so it's official. We are second cousins.
It's official.
Nice. And so I'm actually curious, were you born in Toronto or were you born in the States?
I was born here. I think my parents moved to Fremont, actually, in California in 89 or 90, and they had me in 92.
Okay, so you're born in the States.
Yeah, my parents got this house like just a year and a half before I was born. So I've actually been in the same house my whole life. Interesting.
Got it. And I guess how much time, so here's a weird thing. When I was a kid, I used to think you lived in Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's just a false memory because you're here. I thought you were here so much more than you were, or if you actually were here a lot.
Mm-hmm. From my understanding, when I was a child, I would come 3 to 4 times a year. So for everyone else, my mom has 5 brothers. Everyone lives in Calgary or near Calgary. And then my mom got married and moved down to California. So yeah, we would visit all the time, I think 3-4 times a year. And then I think around high school, is when it went to once a year at most, just because life got busy. College became less and less. But yeah, I was there a lot. We would spend most of our childhood in like Bai's basement.
Bai's basement, yeah.
Breaking lights by accident. Sometimes.
Yeah, the like purple, remember that purple and white ball?
Yeah.
And like the yellow football?
Mm.
Oh man.
Times.
It's crazy that like if we were to go there now at this age, we would definitely break something.
We broke things then too. We shattered that light up top. I definitely shattered it at least once.
I don't remember that.
Oh, I do. I got in trouble.
Oh, okay. I guess then you would remember.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time there.
Yeah. Oh man, those are interesting. Yeah, those are good times, but a lot of fun. So you were on America's Got Talent.
Yeah, 2010. So I was with the dance team. I was with a dance company from like 2006-ish. And they were still kind of blowing up in the beginning then. And then one of the opportunities they got was to go to America's Got Talent. So we had, I think our group was like 15, give or take a few people, 15 people. And the youngest one was 9 years old at the time. And now this kid is just graduating high school. And the oldest at that time, I think, was 31, 32. So we had like a big age range. And yeah, so we're a Bollywood dance company. So they had our auditions in Vegas, which I was not there for. Then we all went to LA and Hollywood. And I think there was two additional auditions. And the one that I went to was the quarterfinals in Hollywood. So that was like the top 24. And it was a fantastic experience. Got to meet a lot of really crazy characters with a lot of cool talents. It was a good experience. Kind of learned about Hollywood and that industry, and not really what I expected, but it was a lot of fun. It was a really cool experience, especially being young. It was nice to be a part of that.
What was different about it?
It's staged. It's reality TV, right? So it's when you're watching these shows, you're like, oh, okay, this is like happening. If I'm there, it's gonna be all natural and live, which it is, but in the rehearsals, you see everything is kind of staged. It's scripted, not like word to word, but it's a lot more scripted than I thought it would be. So that
was in like what you're going to say with the
like if this plays out this way, who's gonna cry, how is this gonna happen, who's gonna be asking the questions, which person is gonna do, like down to a lot of little details. It was scripted, but I think that makes sense because that's first comes first. It's a reality TV show. Which is interesting. I've heard similar things about like Dance India Dance and So You Think You Can Dance. Different for every single one, but it's a reality TV show first. It's a scripted game.
Is your performance on YouTube? I assume it is. I think I watched it a long time ago on YouTube.
But yeah, no, it's on. If you look up Mona, I think so Mona Khan Company or Mona Sampat Khan Company. It was 2010 America's Got Talent.
Let's pull this up. I want to see if that's what it is. Let's double check here. Mona Khan.
Yeah, it should be Mona Khan.
Dance Company. America's Got. Oh yeah, I think so. Here we go. Yep. Totally here. Yep. Mona Khan's Company, America's Got Talent. Yep.
Yeah.
Put that in the description for everybody.
Yeah, top 48. That's what it was.
Top 28. That's super cool.
Exciting stuff. Yeah, that was
awesome. And I guess last thing before we move to Dana, and just kind of do a quick intro on her. You are, I guess you spent all of your time in California, correct? In the States?
I've lived here my entire life. I have traveled a bit, but just vacation family trips. But no, I lived my whole life in California. Yep.
Awesome. So essentially everything that we talk about, I assume, is coming from like, I'd assume a majority California.
Majority Bay Area, like San Francisco, Fremont side, or down in San Diego.
Nice.
I do think I pick up a little bit of culture, all the trips I do around the world, but majority of how I speak and how I think is from here.
Nice. Do you speak Gujarati, by the way? And so often.
I understand. I think about like 60, 70%. 70%. I speak probably like 10, 20%. I don't speak much, but I do understand.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Dana, your turn. Now, Dana, you've already been on here. We've done a pretty proper intro on you, but in case there's people watching this that didn't watch part one or watching you for the first time, let's excuse me, do a quick intro on you. So, I mean, last time you were telling us about, I guess, how you got into teaching English. You're telling us about, like, I think you were teaching in Brazil, if I remember correctly. You studied, was it marketing? Was it marketing or was it science? I don't remember anymore. Anyway.
I have a marketing and science background, and I teach English. I started teaching when I moved to Brazil, and that's where I really got into, my students were asking me to like go on YouTube and start a channel and provide some information about Canada, because there's really nobody on YouTube teaching with kind of a Canadian twist. There's lots of teachers teaching English on YouTube, but nobody does it with kind of an idea of kind of keeping Canada within the content. So that's what I do. And I run an Instagram channel and my YouTube channel, and I have a website. And yeah, I love it. I love, meeting students and talking to everybody and getting to meet really interesting people. So
nice.
It's really fun.
And I guess it's like a different layer to it for the people who did watch part 1 and know a little bit about you. I guess, like, let's talk about it. Are you planning on teaching English for like the foreseeable future? Is that what you're thinking of doing, or do you want to do move into something different later on?
No, I'm planning. I have a business, so I like my handle is on YouTube and on Instagram. It's Can Learn English. So my goal is just to provide people who are moving to Canada with some English support, because Canada's a great country and there's lots of support when you get to Canada, depending on your immigration status. But when you are planning to go study, maybe, there's a lot of people who look to Canada to make a better life for themselves, like pretty much everybody's ancestors who ever moved to Canada. That was kind of the goal, was to go to this great country. And, English is really, really important if you want to be successful in Canada at college, university, workplace. So that's kind of my aim, is to help people that are starting on that path.
Cool. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And do you work with people mostly online, or do you work with people in person, like once they've arrived in Canada as well?
No, because I'm not in Canada, so that makes it challenging to help people that are in Canada. And when I was in Brazil, I was doing some teaching in person, but now, since I'm in Switzerland, now I'm all online. So yeah, and I'll actually send you my website, because I just redid everything on my website. So it's canlearnenglish.com. And I have kind of it all up and ready, and people can go there. I've got a blog. And
send it to me, because I think I just put the same links as last time.
Yeah, I completely revamped the website. So, you can head on there, and if you are, the first question I ask you is where what your plans are, and you can download some free stuff to get going.
For sure. Cool.
Well, not you, because you don't need it. You speak English, but.
Although I will say this, it's kind of odd, but when I was in high school, there would be people that would say that I have an accent in English. They're not common. They think, yeah, you have a little bit of an accent. I'd be like, what? I totally don't. And then one of my closest friends, he's like, you don't have an accent, but you say certain words in a different way. And it's because of how you say it at home compared to how everyone else would say it. So I'll give you some examples. It would be like we don't say, for example, I'm going to shovel, how do I say it? In normal English, I would need to say, I'm going to shovel the snow. But because of the Gujarati influence and how we might use English words at home, we'll say, I'm going to snow shovel. Or I'm not going to mow the lawn, I'm going to lawn mow.
Yeah, that's...
Right, I'm going to go lawn mow. And
that's wrong.
But I say it, or I'll be like, mug cups instead of a mug. Right, because we say mug cup.
Kind of making things a little bit backwards.
Yeah, so there's so many odd. I'm trying to think. There's more than that, but I'm sure that's where it comes from. But it was interesting. Yeah, cool. Let's jump into our main meat of this episode. So last time we touched on a bunch of different things, and I've made a list of a lot of the main things we covered off, and I have it here. And I thought it'd be good to revisit some, go a little deeper, and I guess revisit it and get a perspective from somebody who lives in the USA and not just two Canadians. So I guess a good place to start would be looking at, and I'll ask this to both of you, are there any, let's say, telltale signs, something that like when you're talking to, I guess, Dana, if you're talking to an American, or actually if you're talking to a Canadian, are there things that immediately you go, that gave you away? Because I feel like when Americans and Canadians talk, usually relatively quickly, we can tell. Usually, not always, but often. Are there anything that gives it away?
Sometimes, like, I mean, there's definitely certain things with Americans, like the way they pronounce A's. Sometimes, I think we talked about this last time, when they say like awkward or stap, that's definitely a huge giveaway. I find like the California accent, especially kind of Southern California, to be so similar to the Canadian accent in a lot of ways that, like, you know, I wouldn't necessarily be able to pick out if someone is from California, if that makes sense. In terms of Canadians, it happened to me recently. I was on Instagram and there was a teacher and he just did a video and he said about, and I was like, is that guy Canadian? So I knew, you know what I mean? Like I knew right away. So I think it's words like that with the OU for Canadians, and then words, O's that turn into as for Americans.
So what are some O's that would turn into as that you've heard?
Like sorry, you know, stop it. That's, I'm doing an impression. Like it's really terrible, but that's kind of what I hear sometimes from Americans. It's probably exaggerated, but you know, my ear hears that a lot.
Interesting.
I have a couple of friends from the Midwest, especially friends from Chicago in particular, and they do that all the time. Their A's crack me up. So like me and my roommate, every time we went to Chicago for a wedding, and it was like we had too much fun laughing at the bride for everything that she said. She was like, it's Saturday and we're gonna go to Chicago to get them. We're just like we would just like
Saturday, yeah, that's
fun. It was it's too funny. But like I hear that a lot from people from like the Midwest.
And that's where I'm kind of from. I'm from southwestern Ontario, so we do get like, you know, the border states like Michigan, and this area is kind of the Americans that I would probably interact with more when I'm back in Canada if I'm going to bump into someone.
Yeah,
so that's for me.
Interesting. So I guess, for you, actually, like anything that gives it away for Canadians, like anything you hear, you go.
The way you say about that for sure. A is dropping A at the end of that's the classic one, right? Saying something and then saying A kind of like as a question at the end of a statement.
Mm-hmm.
That's more like stereotypical.
And what do you do for like? Do you guys just not use that? Like, because we say like, "Oh, I know," eh? Or like,
yeah,
"Oh, it's cold out," eh? Like, do you say, what do you use? Do you just make a statement, and that's like, if you're gathering an opinion, how do you do it?
I know. What do you think? I mean, we don't put an A or anything like that at the end. We use way too much slang. I definitely think that is for maybe that I'm Californians. Maybe that's what it is. But we use a lot of slang. That's usually how I can tell.
Can you give us some example of some California?
The example is, for instance, the Bay Area, like near San Francisco and that whole side. We use the word hella way too much. HELLA. I think it kind of just means very. Like I'm hella tired. I hella want to eat right now. Hella bored. Like, it's a very stupid adjective, but it's used all the time. So if like I went to school in San Diego and I have a lot of friends in LA, so when I'm there, if anybody says hella, they're like, "Oh my God, you're from the Bay Area, aren't you?" So that's a big giveaway for the Bay. I don't think anyone says dope anymore, but people used to say, "Oh, that's dope." Like that's cool. That was huge back in like high school or something. In San Diego and Southern California, I think they use the word legit way too much. Everything is legit.
Legit.
They use that. I think they use that one too much. But otherwise, slang. Hella's the big one from California. Otherwise,
so is hella like is hella like a California specific thing?
It's a Bay Area specific thing. Like in Southern California, people don't use hella. If they use it, they like go back to the Bay. But like in college, a bunch of us went there, so then it's like, yeah, Bay Area especially. But that's lit. Recently, that's been a big phrase. Like that party was lit. That's fly. There's a lot of like little slang that's used a lot. I think that's how I'd see you'd recognize that from the States or from California. But
I think lit is like, I think I could be wrong, but that's definitely a new thing in Canada too.
Okay, that's been around for a while. It's still going hard. That's Gucci. That's still weird for me. But I have friends who say that, like, and that's like it's a normal thing, and people treat it like it's a normal thing, and I'm like, am I the only one who thinks that's a little weird? But that's definitely a popular phrase in like LA and like in the dance art world a bit. That's Gucci. I think that's
Have you heard this one? I was talking to my sister recently, and like I'm probably so out of touch with Canadian slang. And she said someone was being salty. Do you know this one? So she said, "Oh, like she's been really salty lately," and I'm like, I can't even like begin to understand if that's like if she's like happy or she's sad or she's, you know. So she had to explain to me what this word is, and I was like, "Why are you using this?" And she's like, "Everybody does." So I guess from what she told me, this means, and Azren, I don't know if you know it. It's like when someone's being a little bit like kind of like off put with you, like they're being a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, I know what it means.
I don't know where it came from. It's really random, but
yeah, I feel like I hear a lot of that kind of slang, that kind of like weird terms in the States, or Cali especially.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess actually, like one thing we touched on in the last part one, I should link up part one. I didn't put the link for part one. I will put a link for part one in the description. But in part one, we talked about how there are different, and you've touched on it too, actually, how there's different types, I guess, different dialects, different ways of speaking across the states. Like, what are some of the major ones that come to mind for you? Like when you think about major areas that tend to have a different way of talking.
Boston.
Yeah, one of my friends is from Boston. Like that, also like Chicago, the way they'll accent their A's. I can't do a Boston impression, but they do have their own dialect for sure.
Yeah, it's the pronunciation of the R's. So instead of saying R, they'd say ah. Like,
think of an example.
Yeah, it's hard to think of one. I used to work for a company, and there was an R in it, and they'd all go ah. So it was like but it's because they maintain such a link between England because of the trading, that when this non-rhetoric accent, so the not like really hard pronunciation of R became popular in England, the people in Boston tried to imitate it because it was fashionable.
Okay.
And the rest of us were like, we kept with pronouncing car instead of ka and this type of thing, but they switched over to be fashionable. Yeah.
Very, very Boston. Car.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. So we have Boston, Chicago. You said California has something specific. I guess other
southern states. You see the Heard Southern hospitality. They're very polite in their very, very distinct with their pronunciation and extremely polite. I've heard that a lot from people from the southern states.
Yeah, they're hard to understand, and I was just talking about this with someone the other day about how you can have trouble understanding people from like in your own language in certain situations. And I remember there's a podcast called Serial. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's pretty big, but they did this episode, this kind of investigative thing about the South and like real deep South, like really rural. And I remember having to like replay sections of this story in this podcast because I was like, I don't understand anything these people are saying. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely happens. Like there's a comedian, not American or Canadian, but Irish. Is it Irish or Scottish? No, Scottish actually. Sorry, named Kevin Bridges, and he's a very thick accent, and he's hilarious. But the first time I heard him, I was like, I think I need subtitles.
Yeah, the comedians can be very difficult.
Yeah, very true. The other one, I was looking at my notes here to make sure I get it all here. Okay, I got a bit of a quiz for Akshay. A couple of different terms that we use in Canada. I'm wondering if you know what they are. Let's see how you do. Okay, first one. What is a toque? Let's see if you know any.
No clue.
Toque?
Really?
The only thing I would guess.
What's that?
The smoke is the only thing I could guess. We say to toke. Toke is smoking.
Nope.
Yeah, no clue.
Is a beanie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I totally got that.
But that comes from French, like French Canadian. Because I think that comes from like from Quebec. They use that word in French there.
Yeah, but we all use it like it's.
Yeah, we all use it.
Like you literally are like, "Where's my toque?" Like that's.
Okay. Yeah, I've never.
It's probably so cold in the winter. Like you often think about your toque. Like it's probably something you think about every day because you need to put it on, leave the house.
Mm-hmm. The other one, these ones you might know, like a loonie or a toonie.
Oh, that's the $1, $2.
Yeah,
that I only know because
I'm curious. Like, what do Americans think about the fact that we call our dollar a loonie? Do you guys think it's like? Does it come in line with your perception of Canadians as being like, stereotypical American ideas of what Canadians are? Like, how do you think about that? Because it's so silly.
I'm not the person to ask. I have no clue what other Americans think of that. Because I mean, I've been to Canada so much growing up, so I knew loony and toonie since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Most Americans, my guess would be when they hear loony or toonie, they think of Looney Tunes, like those shows, because that was called Looney Tunes. But I would assume that most Americans, if they haven't been to Canada, I assume they wouldn't know what a loony or toonie is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you bring up an interesting point, actually. I mean, so, and Dana, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that in Canada, many people or some people think that in the States, in America, a lot of Americans have a perception of Canadians that is, it's not only negative, it's not only negative, it's almost like we're almost like a little brother, or almost like oh, those Canadians,
those cute little Canadians, grown-ups.
No,
yeah,
I get that. I hear that vibe a little bit. Okay, like this is an exaggeration, but of course, How I Met Your Mother. Like they make fun of Canadians all the time. Yeah, that kind of vibe. Yeah.
South Park.
Little Brother is kind of a fun way of putting it. But yeah, like in that show, you see them like make fun of Canadians. I think they kind of exaggerate a little bit, but I think they do exaggerate it for sure. But that I guess that is kind of the vibe. I don't know why that is the case, but
now, do you think it's different for you? Because I mean, I think
I get that vibe from people in Cali as well. For me, it's not, because I'm dual citizen. I grew up pretty much in Canada half the time.
Are you dual citizen? Do you have a dual citizenship?
Yeah, because my mom and dad are both citizens as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. But so I guess for you, is it different for you at all? Because you obviously grew up in, I guess you'd be considered a first generation American/Canadian, right? Because our family's roots are from India and everything. Is it different for you that you are American and Canadian? I guess you're both. But you come from, your parents are not born there.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing. Because everyone, right in the Bay Area, at least, there are so many Asians. So it's very diverse. And there are a lot of Indians, a lot of other Asians, but most Indians are from India. So that's something that I find very unique and I love about myself, is that we're not from India, we're from Africa. So that, I definitely see that very different, because I hear about my friends and their families growing up, and everyone goes to visit India all the time, for example. And when they go, they all have the huge houses because they have generations living there. And I'm like, yeah, I've been to India once. We don't really have much family there. When we go, we're like, it's not like we're going to some mansion, because we don't have like the whole lineage there. We were all from Africa. So that's definitely something I find that's unique and I connect with, because I've heard all the stories from the grandparents and the parents and whatnot. So that's something that's definitely very different. Connecting with Canada, not too much. I mean, I grew up there, so I feel like I know everybody. Like I know all of our family from there, but I didn't go to school in Canada. For the most part, I'm pretty American, Indian American, but pretty American.
Cool.
The Indian roots go deep in our family. So I think that definitely carries through.
For sure. Cool. Now, I think final thing we'll do here, because I know it's late, well, early/late for everyone. So we'll do final thing. There are actually final two things. Let's finish some of these vocab things. I'm actually very curious with these next ones. Do you know what a double timbits? Yeah, double or timbits are.
I feel like I've heard the phrase double, but I have no clue.
Okay, got it. So they're, Tim Hortons, right?
Yeah.
The coffee shop. It's like basically a coffee with 2 cream, 2 sugar.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then you have a Timbits, which are, I think they're donut holes. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is a donut hole for you?
A donut?
Or you don't know?
A donut hole is just a donut? I mean, we have those little donuts, like those small.
Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
the round ones.
What do you call the little ones?
Okay. There is a term for it, but I'm not sure.
It was actually funny
I
Tim
don't eat
Hortons.
but so I'm really not the person to ask. Donut bites, or there's a term for it.
Donut holes, I think that's what they call them.
Maybe.
But I was watching Billions last night, and there was a scene where I don't know if you guys watch Billions, but the main character goes to Canada to sort something out, and the guy he's visiting says, "Well, I don't think you're here to go to Timmy Ho Ho's," and I was thinking, I don't think any Americans got that joke. Like, you know, if you heard this on a TV show, would you know what Timmy Ho Ho's is? No. And we all Canadians, Tim Hortons, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. And last thing, I guess I'll put it to Dana first. I guess, Dana, what would you like? What is a university to you, and what is a college?
Yeah, like they're different in Canada. You can't use them interchangeably. So university is kind of like an academic institution where you study for 4 years, and a college is more like they do a lot more of like a technical, hands-on educational approach. So it would be like kind of for different purposes. A lot of people go to college if they want like a career. A lot of people nowadays, I don't know if it's like this in Calgary, but a lot of university graduates go do like a postgraduate at a college so they can get some like hands-on training. So like a college prepares you for a career, and you usually go to a university to like study some type of academic subject.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's similar in Calgary. No, I guess for you, actually, what's like...
Is college a community college for you? That's
no.
What's a community college for you?
We don't really have a community. Like you might have like a community college could maybe be like a private college. You know, I don't know if you have these, Azren, but like in Ontario, we have like a college where you could go do very kind of like basic level education. But a college isn't really community college for us. We don't really have that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I guess what is a community college for you? I guess let's go through these. We have university, college, and then I guess we have community college. Like what do those three mean for you then? Okay.
Universities, we have community college, and college is the interchangeable term that's used for both. So community college is just it's more like the local colleges that we have. It's like one of the schools I went to, they had, you can go take classes at the local community college, even in high school, to start taking more advanced classes and whatnot. Otherwise, community college, you can still get a solid education there. It's usually a lot cheaper than going to a university. A lot of people go to community college for 2 years and they transfer up. Universities are more recognized, but you can still get a good education for sure from community college. Universities, you hear all the UCs, for example, like UC San Diego, UC Berkeley, all those universities, all the bigger ones, Ivy League universities, but all those are universities. When we say college, it's a general term. Where did you go to school? Where did you go to university? Where did you go to college? Kind of the same thing. So if I say, like I can say, I went to college at UCSD, and I don't think twice to say, oh, I went to university at UCSD. Me saying I went to college at UCSD is the exact same thing. I don't think about it twice.
Yeah, for us, we really wouldn't do that. And like in Canada, we would have like a level of education that would be considered Ivy League. So you've got your universities that around Canada are like extremely hard to get into. So you would need to have a very high grade point average, and they're very competitive. And then you would have like a tier of universities that are like, a lot of times, like in Canada, we'll call them like Last Chance U, or there'll be like different jokes about certain universities that like you would really only need like a 60% average to get into these universities. So generally, anybody who wants to go to a university can go to one in Canada for the most part. It's, you know, university education is not necessarily like extremely competitive in a lot of cases. And then people would choose to go to a college if, for example, they wanted to be a police officer, or if they wanted to maybe, you know, you might go to university if you want to do something digital, or you might go to college if you want to do digital marketing and you want to do like technical training on a certain,
or like a lot of the trades as well, right? Any of the trades you'll go to a college typically, or like something.
Yeah, but at least in Ontario, colleges are really gaining like a strong reputation, because people don't necessarily want to go to university to study 4 years of psychology if they're not going to be a psychologist, for example. Whereas like, I think maybe 10 years ago, that might've been the trend to just jump into a university. And now people are saying, oh, you know, colleges offer like, and they are gaining like a better reputation when you are like college or university educated in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think our big thing for community college and like our state schools are that it's a lot cheaper, but you can still go get a solid computer science degree from those schools. You can still do exactly what you're doing in university. You may not have, I mean, it depends on the school, so you may not have as technical professors. Definitely you will at some places, but mainly it's cheaper. That's my understanding.
And how much like would a year cost at like a good university in California?
Like UCs, like getting more and more expensive. So I want to say like just shy of 30, maybe 25, 28K.
A year.
Mm-hmm.
And what about a community college?
That I'm not sure, but I think it would be probably 10, shy of 10. I'm not, don't quote me on that one.
Sure.
And as I'm sure you can relate, like my entire
universities, it can get up to 40, 50. Like if you're going to like USC, I know a lot of my friends have got like that 50%. They have some scholarship, they get like 50%, so they went to like 26K. Otherwise, a lot of these like private universities, it can be up to 40, 45K. It's getting damn pricey.
That's insane.
That's
like I'm in Canada, a 4-year degree would cost you 20K without grants. Would you say, Azren?
It could be. Depends on your school, right? Depends on your school and your program. I think, yeah, but I mean, that would be reasonable, I think. But it definitely depends on your school and your program as well. So for example, I know some people that went to an arts college, and I mean college in the term of like Canadian college, like Canadian definition of the word college. I think it was about 10 grand a year.
Well, yeah, so that would be on the high, like I know for my university, right. I paid, you know, you would pay 6K a year. And then you would get grants on top of that. So like there's a certain amount of money that like they'll pay you every year. So then, you know, and it, like, I don't know how it works in Calgary, but like you get everybody can have a loan to go to university or to college. So like you know, there's not that kind of in the way the government will lend you the money basically.
Yeah, similar here. You can get student loans. Yeah, it's definitely a thing you can. Yeah, pretty common.
Yeah, and you pay it back. And which is, you know, when my sister was going to university, she actually had friends who were from America coming up from the States to go to her university because it was kind of considered one of the best universities in Canada. And even with international student fees, they were paying less than they would pay.
Right.
At somewhere in New York. So it's crazy.
Yeah, that's definitely a big difference. Like I've noticed it as well. And even like what we call, like this is not price related, but it's like something I've been asked about this a couple times, like what we'd call someone in a first year, second year, third year, fourth year of university, or even high school for that matter. Like we would just say, I'm first year of university, second year, my third year, my last year, my fourth year, my fifth year, or my whatever. Dana, I assume it's similar in Ontario?
Yeah, like for high school, we would say like grade 9, grade 10, up to grade 12. So you put the grade and then the number. And then in university, you'd be like first year, second year, third year, fourth year.
You guys don't all use the terms freshman, sophomore, junior, senior?
No.
We might understand. Like not everyone would understand, but many would understand because we might hear it in TV shows or something.
Okay.
But it's not a thing.
That is the standard terms that we use in the States, I think all over, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, for both high school and college. But you definitely hear 9, 10, 11, 12, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth years in college. You definitely hear that too. It's normally it'll go normally in college, majority it's freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. super senior if you're like that 5th year, but usually it's 5th and 6th year you're past it. But you hear both, but definitely like
so freshman's your first year, then sophomore,
junior, senior, be super senior,
then super senior.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would call that a victory lap, is what we called it. So like in Ontario, we used to have 5 years of high school, and then they phased it out. So you could go into like 13th grade, and that was like standard. And then even when they phased it out 2 years before I finished, and people were still doing this 5th year. So we just called it like a victory lap.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've never heard that. It might be a thing, but when I was in my 4th year of university, let's just say every year I attended less and less class. Let's just say that.
Generally, that's how it happens.
Yeah, so I was getting less and less into school, but I'm going back now. So
what did you study, Azren?
French and Spanish, and now I'm going back for a Chinese degree.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so starts in September, but part-time, because I'll still be working full-time, so just one or 2 courses this semester. But
cool. And you're going to learn Chinese?
Well, I speak Mandarin now already, but you
do?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, just casually, I speak Mandarin. Very cool.
Well, I think we can. We can finish up. Any like final remarks? Anything that either of you, any thoughts you had throughout that you wanted to share that came up that we didn't really touch on? Anything you want to add in before we finish?
No, I think that's pretty good. It was interesting to get an American, to hear. But like, again, like I said, like the accent from California is probably like the most similar to the Canadians in terms of like nothing really jumps out, but it was still really interesting to hear this.
The cadence jumps out to me. The cadence and the tone of speech jumps out to me immediately.
Very relaxed, yeah.
Very relaxed, I find generally. And like when I hear someone from California, I might not notice it immediately when I'm talking to them, but the second they say they're from California, I go, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a different cadence, I find.
You find them more relaxed?
I would say find it. I don't know if it's I don't know if relaxed is the word. Like personally, the word that would come to mind is maybe almost like slower, maybe. Like I don't know. There's a certain like almost like feel to it. It's hard to describe. Yeah.
You don't have that fast, because like we talk fast in Canada. Like I think we do, and I think if you're from California, it's just like a slower pace.
You find that a lot with you do find people who speak really fast. High school girls just go.
That's everywhere. That's everywhere, man. That's every country.
High school girls are just so excited.
That's what it is. But no, I mean, it depends on who you see. But I definitely had a lot of friends who spoke really fast. I think I've been told I speak really fast. I work in that though.
But I wonder if like one thing, Akshay, I've heard you say is like when you're in Calgary, you feel like it's so chill. And I wonder if like
that was my one biggest thing is I don't know if it's the States in general, but the Bay Area for sure. Everyone's stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
There's this like everyone's like either they're climbing a ladder or they're just trying to do so many things. Like there's the job, and then there's the side projects, and the side project, and the side project. Everyone has this like mental stress. Like the amount of competition there was in high school and getting into college and all this, everyone's stressed out. Everyone's like losing their minds. That's definitely the vibe that I had growing up.
Is it your circle though? Is that your circle? I wonder.
We're like a lot of this first generation Asians. That definitely the high schools are extremely competitive. Trying to get into a good college, it's like if I went like my school's a little bit easier, I think, but our competing high school, there you can get like top grades, same as you would here. You may not get into Berkeley, you may not get into Stanford, because it's like, well, everyone has a good grade. You have a 4.0, everyone has a 4.0, everyone has like 4.2, everyone has a 4.3. Like,
is it? Do you think it's like the pressure from, like you said, like first generation Asians have this like
from the parents,
from your parents because they came, and it's like I
think that
I want for
you're
you.
not going to get into school if you don't have 5 AP classes. Is that a fact? No, but it's like if you're great and they're great and they have 5 AP classes, college level classes that they have taken, and you have 1, they're going to pick them. So the mentality is, okay, I should take as many AP classes as I can. Then everyone's like stressing out, losing their minds, because there's some thought that, oh, if I don't get into the best college, then I've failed, which is complete BS. Because like,
and you know what's really, really interesting when you talk about like these grade things is like when you apply, say you apply to like a college or university in Europe, they have a formula for like Americans, and they probably use it on the Canadians as well, to like downgrade the grades because, like you said, like in the US, you achieve for like a 4.0, but the grades are really lower. Like they're a lot lower in Europe. So, you know, if someone has a 4.0 in the US, like it's really like a 70 in Europe. So they actually like adjust. It's interesting.
That is interesting. Because now at high school, I know people with like 4.5s. They take all these AP classes, the college level classes, they're out of 5, not 4. A lot of kids have over 4. And it's like, okay, this is just great. But that's interesting that they would do that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one thing. I have one of my friends, I think he's from some Spanish country, and then he's like, yeah, growing up there, he's like, it's also very calm and relaxed. People enjoy living. They're like chilled. Here, everyone's hustling and everyone's like a little stressed out. But everywhere, all the other countries I visited, usually people are calm and they're like more present and enjoying like day-to-day life. Here, people aren't enjoying day-to-day life. They're always, hey, there's this to do, there's that to do. Like everyone's busy. Everyone's like, either they're chasing all their ambitions like crazy, or they're just like used to it with that whole growing up. I definitely was used to it growing up, just like feeling stressed out, thinking that, okay, I need to do this, the next thing. Maybe it comes with maturity, you learn to calm down over time, but I definitely feel that it's a little bit more stress, a little bit more hectic mindset over here. And it was a lot more polite in Canada.
Sorry.
Nice. Well, let's wrap it up there.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for your time. Yes, good morning to Dana. Have a good rest of your day. Good night for myself and Akshay. So I will, I guess I'll send you guys a link when it's finished processing. So
good stuff. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Great, thanks for having me.
No problem. Let's end this off here.